President-elect Donald Trump makes his return to the world stage. The reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris also marked the de facto coming out of Trump as the new leader of the free world. And upon his arrival, Trump got the red carpet treatment, complete with trumpets blaring and members of the Republican Guard in full uniform, which is something usually reserved for sitting U.S. presidents. Trump was greeted by French President Emmanuel Macron. Trump's overbearing handshake, this was quite funny, with Macron was seen as a power move. It went viral on social media. And Trump held talks with Ukrainian President Zelensky, calling for an immediate ceasefire, and even sent a warning shot to Russia. Trump also sent his envoy to the Middle East, warning it would, quote, not be a pretty day if the hostages in Gaza are not released before Trump's inauguration. Trump's international trip signaling this, that America is back. I want to put up some images of that handshake with Macron. It indeed went viral. And we have a side-by-side of his 2017 handshake with Macron. Larry, if that's not an America First handshake, I don't know what is.
Just loved it.
Oh, there it is.
I just loved it. It's a bone crusher. It's a little, little signal to Macron. By the way, Macron, I know we're going to talk about Syria and all the rest of it, but Macron's whole government has collapsed, as you may recall. So I don't know what he's going to do. He doesn't have to resign. But I think Trump was sending him a signal. Trump's had, look, I was in all those G7 and G20 meetings in the first term. He's had decidedly mixed relationship with Emmanuel Macron. So I think he was saying, who's the boss here? I'm the boss here. By the way, the point about head of state, Trump is now running the country. I mean, Trump is running foreign policy. There's no question about that.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Harris, it was funny to listen to the musings of Trump about the various leaders he met. On the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, he said, she's a real live wire. I will tell you she's great. Prince William, I kind of laughed when I read this. He's a good-looking guy, Trump said. He looked really very handsome last night. Some people look better in person. He looked great. He looked really nice, and I told him that.
Look, Alex Hogan did some reporting earlier last hour, and, you know, there are world leaders reportedly who are saying that Trump is the de facto president at this time. And, you know, it is disturbing that we haven't heard from President Biden, because I assume he's up from his nap from Angola. Not kidding. That was embarrassing for the entire United States of America. But also not from the Vice President Kamala Harris. So tacitly no leadership at the top. People who are supposed to be glued in Situation Room to situations that affect us across the world, but an incoming president is able to hold high-level presence with leaders, and they call him a de facto president. And not only is it embarrassing, but it's ineffective for the current administration then to step in and do anything. So it's probably better that they don't at this point. Those 35 or so days are going to go by quickly. He's been president before. He's got a foreign doctrine for the country. Make America do it first, make us first ahead of the world, lay it out that way. Still not clear on what Joe Biden's doctrine was, foreign policy. So it is an interesting spot that we're in. No one sees Joe Biden as any more lame duck than our enemies.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in? Just two things just quickly. Number one, there's no question in my mind that Jill Biden voted for Donald Trump.
His wife?
Yeah,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I think Joe may have, but I'm certain Jill had, because they were flirting so much in the thing. The other thing is I want to say is going to Notre Dame, the opening of this grand church after the fire, it's a Catholic church. Okay. I want to go back quickly. Al Smith dinner.
Yep, I got it too.
Yes.
Religion and cultural symbolism. Trump went to the Al Smith dinner. Trump goes to the reopening of the great cathedral, Notre Dame. Trump won Catholic voters by 20 percentage points in the last election. In 2020, Joe Biden won Catholic voters by a few. Trump is saying religion is important. That has to be part of our culture. It has to be part of our moral thinking. I just want to get that out, because I think there's a subheading that hasn't gotten enough play.
Without a doubt. Emily, another big point is Saturday night, Syria fell from Bashir Assad and fell to the hands of al-Jawlani, who is someone who is affiliated with al-Qaeda as recently as 2017. So a bad actor to someone who now claims to be a good actor. I make this point that Biden, we didn't hear from him until Sunday. Trump is meeting with foreign leaders when this happens.
That's right.
And I don't think it was an accident that we didn't hear from Biden for 24 hours, because this is what Politico says. Biden has effectively disappeared from the radar in the wake of Democrats' bruising electoral loss since November 5th. He's largely stuck to prepared remarks, avoided unscripted public appearances or press questions. He's been so cavalier and selfish, this is a quote, about how he approaches the final weeks of the job, said a former White House official. A huge change in Syria, and he's absent?
Yeah, well, I think he's been cavalier and selfish his entire career, personally. So I'm not surprised by this at all. I'm not surprised by his hubris. I'm not surprised by his bruised ego. I'm not surprised by him acting out in a stubborn and selfish way. I will say that the media coverage of this was really fascinating to me because, for example, CNN called the trip that was, I agree with you, it was a massive big deal, symbolically a huge deal for President Trump to be invited by President Macron at the reintroduction of the storied and sacred Notre Dame Cathedral and all it represents historically and religiously. CNN called it a vaunting event, meaning just for show, meaning just to stroke feathers on the back. And they contrasted that by President Biden's Angola trip, an Africa trip, where he couldn't even get it right whether it was a city or a country, and he fell asleep to the embarrassment of all of us Americans. And CNN had the gall to phrase that as, this was in the same article, they said, well, this was they said how President Trump hasn't been there, and they said that this was the visit of substance. That President Biden's visit was one of substance
in
comparison to Trump.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that this is unimportant. And so the media continues to be the apologetic ring bearer for President Biden, who is asleep at the wheel, while our military and our troops are still under his watch. It is frightening. January 20th can't come fast enough, and those world leaders see the same.
And Molly, the Biden team would say we bombed ISIS strongholds, but a lot of Americans say we would have liked to hear from you the night it happened.
Yeah. Yes.
The thing I found most fascinating is the weekend unfolded in this beautiful, amazing setting. They're seeing the church reopening. That first initial speaking with President Trump and Emmanuel Macron, where Emmanuel Macron notes that he was the president when the fire had occurred the first time, welcoming him back, thanking him for helping in the rebuilding process. And President Trump gets right into talking about policy, what's going to come next, praising the French people and talking about how they've worked together in defense in the past. And then later, when Zelensky joins that picture, you have to look at these three men and say, Zelensky, not that long ago, was talking about Macron kind of floating international troops being added in Ukraine if a peace deal comes. And then you have President Trump talking about how NATO is the one that has to step up and pay its fair share. So looking at these three men and what's unfolding, they're all very different takes and tactics, and we'll see what comes in the months ahead.
Well, we know America First policy will be coming right away, January 20th. We'll see what happens.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.